we will show that we have 3 members of the committee present, and I'm declaring that a quorum, even though we have 5 members. Do you ladies agree with that?
Sure. I'm gonna text Ronald just to and Mike just to let them know.
Terry, is that okay with you?
Sure, yeah.
All right, then let's get started. Teresa had asked about the summary of legal services that Jimmy provided, and I'm sure you've all looked at the list. It's a pretty extensive list, and I have not compared exactly piece by piece, but I'm hoping that you all have taken your assigned systems and kind of done a checklist of whether or not their attorneys did those things, both in-house and contracted services. When we decide whether to do one or the other or a combination, it's important that we get it right with what we expect them to do for us. And I don't think we've had any fines and forfeitures collected since he left. Does either of you know that? Do either of you know that?
I don't know.
I don't know, but I wouldn't think so. I mean, unless Mr. Sue's done it.
That's a good question to ask. I'll make a note. Because that was a huge chunk of change that came in. But I'm not sure. Does anybody know if court is even, hey, Mike, does anybody know if court is even going on?
I think it's just for like child welfare and some of those critical things.
Okay.
Restraining orders, things like that.
Welcome, Mike.
So it may be that other stuff hadn't even been happening.
Having all kinds of fun.
Oh, yes. I hated to bother you. We were just talking about the duties that Mr. Lawrence provided, the services that he provided for $160 an hour. And from that, he paid his legal assistant, he paid his office expenses, his retirement, his health insurance. He paid all of that out of his $160 per hour. And the things that he did are taken from the timesheets from Miss Dublin, and I'm sure she would be happy to share those with you.
I'd like to see those.
Yeah, she's got them. She looked through them and summarized them. I actually had them. I think I brought a copy, but it's in narrative form. It's not listed as hour by hour. This is what I did. It's a summary. Paragraph summary, like today I did, and he would list those things that he did. So as I was saying, when we do decide whether to do contracted or in-house, we'll need to have a comprehensive list of the things that each person or a person is responsible for doing. And this is not an exhaustive list if you compare it to other districts. So with that, are there any questions, any other questions about Mr. Lawrence's services?
Mike, how much did we end up paying last year? Do you remember? Or either of you?
It was over $300,000.
Yeah, I mean, I just was thinking it was close to 400, and 400 divided by 160 hours, that'd be, $160, and that's roughly about 210 hours a month. So that's 50 hours a week, 52 hours a week.
Right.
That's correct. And I don't know if he charged overtime for weekends, but I know a lot of time when we were changing superintendents, he did a lot of stuff over the weekend, but that's a really, I wouldn't dare to guess, but we can look at those timesheets that Miss Dublin has, and the ones that were all signed off on, we could go back and see. You took 300 and tell me what you did.
I did. I was thinking it was close to 400,000. Do you remember, Mike?
Hold on, I probably have it. Let me look.
I think Dr. Smith has is somewhere in between 300 and 400.
I think so, and let me see if I have that. It was a news release that went out So let me look back on my email and see if I can find. It was a public records request that we put out that had legal services, that had his fees as well as the ones we contracted.
So even if I dropped it down to 350,000 divided by $160 an hour, that came out to 5,833 divided by 12. That's 486. Oh, I didn't do it right that time. 60. 2,187. That would be the number of hours. If I divided that by 12, that's 182 hours a month. If I divided that by 4 weeks in a month, that'd be 45 hours a week. So 350, well, 400,000 would be about 52 hours a week. 350,000 would be about 46 hours a week. So that's still, I mean, that's a more than full-time job.
Right. That's one reason we may need to decide to do in-house, but in-house you have to pay benefits, office, administrative assistant.
You know, if you, I'll tell you what I have interest in, and it's kind of going to be, you know, I don't know what the cost would be, and that's what this committee is for. Is we might need a blending model, and
right.
Terry and I have talked about this. I know a lot of Mr. Lawrence's time was contract and policy review.
Board meetings.
Yeah, board meetings and that type of stuff. You know, I know you gave me Charlotte Mecklenburg County, Dr. Smith, to look at. Obviously, they're 4 times our size.
Correct.
And obviously, you know, probably 4 times the employees. But, you know, they have all in-house. Look like they have a general counsel, a deputy general counsel, and they got 4 senior associates under them. Plus, they form out their hourly partnerships as far as legal secretaries and those type things. But if we look at a blended model where we have somebody in-house working for the school system to handle contracts and policy, and then we outsource the legal work and the board meeting review as far as public policy and handling the parliamentary duties of a board meeting, then we might come out a lot better, because I don't think you would have to have the support staff that you review contracts and policy like you would handling the legal side of the board. So
what about the fines and forfeitures part?
Well, that could actually, now Pitt County does theirs through their, let me tell you, they've got a blended model. And even though they only have 23,000 students or 37 schools, their total cost between contracted services and in-house, and that includes benefits and everything, is $224,933 a year. That's combined.
Right.
And the contracted services, they handle the fines, the forfeitures, the board meetings, that kind of thing. And in-house, they're doing contracts and also EC services, like acting as an EC compliance officer.
What about meetings and policy review? Because we really need a policy person who can help us feed through all that.
Yeah, their policy review, they didn't say where that happened, so we could determine whether we wanted that in-house or contracted, just depending on.
Well, if you put down RFP, you have those experience levels in that, Dr. Smith, and if they have a background in policy and school law, and I mean, you could RFP it whatever way, whatever you're looking for
That's right.
as
And
far as it.
That's why it's critical that we don't leave anything out and that we get the best bang for our buck in both. I have looked all the way back through February, and I cannot find the table, but I know we had a table, and then we had legal services. Hold on just a second. I thought that might be it.
Just to let y'all know, Ronald is stuck at the police department with a case, so he'll be late joining us.
Okay.
What we have to deal with it, what we have to look at as an option is in-house. They got to have support staff. So you hire in-house, then you got the benefits to the attorney as well as whatever the support staff is. So
That's right.
what you're looking at is might be more than what we're currently paying. So I'm interested in saving money, but I'm not interested in exposing our school district in legal actions. I want somebody that's going to make sure that we're doing everything legally and we're represented on anything that we might have come up. So.
That's right.
Let me tell you. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just going to tell you something interesting that Wilson County does. They do not have a blended model. What they do is they contract. They have a $2,500 a month retainer.
There you go.
Plus any out-of-pocket expenses. And for any services that are not covered by the retainer, it's $170 an hour. Let me tell you what the retainer covers. It covers phone and in-office consultation. They will work with the Board of Ed, superintendent, and central office, like HR, PIOs, facility services on land acquisitions, things like that. They handle the board meetings. They handle committee meetings, like policy review. They do conferences and staff meetings as requested by the board. They review board agendas. They review and approve contracts. There are 4 half days throughout the year where they provide staff development for either the board or principals or whoever. And they also do a board, they also, within that committee meeting piece, they do policy review and drafting.
Good. Yeah, I think there are really good models out there. That's why I ask you all to review them. And thank you for doing that, Terry. That's exactly what we need, is to see how other districts are doing it and then do the best model that we can. And I'm still looking for that news report.
So while you're looking, I'll just go on with mine. I had Union County,
which is about our size,
and they have in-house counsel. The salary level says school administration, cabinet, GC. So I didn't know what
GC is general counsel.
Right, but I don't know what that means as far as what the salary is. I don't know how we find that. But they didn't list the salary. It just says school administration, cabinet, general counsel is the salary level. So when I was looking at what they did versus what Mr. Lawrence did, it did not specifically mention media and public records request or budget.
Union County is 230,000, Teresa. It was on the spreadsheet. It's
okay,
$230,000.
Okay. So I don't know if that would fall under risk management activities of the board, because they had a kind of a catch-all that said that's what it was stated as duties.
Right.
Risk management activities of the board. So I don't know if either of those items would fall under that. And then it also did not mention specifically fines and forfeitures. But everything else, that how you had it laid out for what Jimmy did was listed.
Good. And,
Okay.
and let me say this about Union County. They also had a firm on retainer for land acquisitions. As Mr. Johnson said in our first meeting, sometimes people have expertise in real estate that we need to do our school construction and those kinds of things. And then we need somebody with education expertise. And I'll tell you, education expertise to me is critical because it is not like any other. It's not like any other legal strand, I guess. So, Mike, what are your thoughts?
Looking at Mecklenburg, Stroll Mecklenburg, it's just about like Union County. They got general counsel, and then they got 5 associates up under them, and then the general counsel out there is $230,000 a year, and then they got 4 or 5 associates making almost $150,000 apiece.
Right.
Under them. But I mean, I'm interested in probably contracting specialty services out. But as far as I need to know the prices, I mean, I don't know what it's going to cost us. We won't know until we search that.
We've got to do an RFP.
Yeah.
And I had given you all some models of RFPs as your second assignment. For example, Rowan Salisbury, I had given you, let's see, that was a 5-page job. Onslow County had an RFP that was really thorough, and Wilson County had an RFP that was pretty thorough. So I'm here.
My personal opinion, I think we could have a blended in-house person could save us the money and handle the smaller things as far as
The educational things.
litigation and that type of stuff.
Public records requests.
Yes.
Yeah. But as far as litigation outside of the school, we would need the contract.
And now when we say contract, do we have somebody that will do all of that under a second contracted service agreement, or do we just put all of those things out for bid as well? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I know what you're asking. What do you think, Ron? Now that you're with us.
Hey, I didn't see that. I'm still looking for the public records request.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now, right?
Yep.
You are.
Okay, hey, I think it would be a blended model would be beneficial when you look at how other counties do it. You have, obviously your EC is going to be a big piece, but there's going to be so many other big pieces, but like your EC is going to be a major piece. And I think I know we currently do Tharrington and Smith. So I would assert that we maintain our relationship with Tharrington and Smith regarding the EC. But on very general day-to-day things that we're going to deal with, like your custody orders and subpoena compliances, public information requests, that's something that can be very straightforward and done in an in-house attorney with a very general level of knowledge. So let's just say you get someone, I hate to say straight out of law school, who is a promising attorney. You could put them in this position. Not that I'm advocating for a rookie without any type of educational experience, but you could put them in this position, and then they could use Tharrington and Smith as a guide. And you would obviously have someone, you need an intelligent individual who can come in and interpret the law and call someone, because in theory, that's what we had previously. We had someone who had familiarized with themselves with educational law over a period of time. So if we can get someone in here who can start familiarizing themselves with educational law and have them use Tharrington and Smith as a I don't want to say a sounding board, but have them actually use Tharrington and Smith to gain that knowledge, then they should be able to pick it up as they go along. They're going to have to get work experience. I think it's just very naive to think that we're going to find that perfect attorney that has, 15 years of, education experience and stuff. That's going to be a hard find, and it'll be an expensive find. So I think if we just contracted out, stuff like EC is huge, but someone could come in here and do the subpoena compliance, the, custody orders, the
Contracts.
stuff like that. You wouldn't have it so many times that a person of high level intelligence who's fresh out of law school or with minimal legal experience, they would have to go to Kinsu, or I'm sorry, not Kinsu, just someone with Tharrington and Smith, and then they could learn the ropes per se, and then that would minimize our legal bill to Tharrington and Smith as they gain the knowledge. So,
But I will agree that we need to do an RFP, but I am very leery of getting someone. If you've taken a look at the law book, it is about 3.5 inches thick. And law in education is very different than law in contracts and fines and forfeitures and real estate. So I really would hesitate to have a we're going to hire a rookie mentality when we really can get ourselves in a lot of deep trouble if we don't have someone who is knowledgeable about education. And I've reached out to the dean of the law school at Campbell, and there are very few people who have education expertise. I got one name, and so it will be difficult at best. I'm coming back on because I've looked all the way down and I can't find the expenditures. What were your impressions of your studies, Mr. Johnson, on your systems, both in-house and contracted?
So a lot of the county that we're looking at does, from the best of my recollection, does have, contracted legal services, but they do use Tharrington and Smith. And what we're doing, and what I'm finding is that it is a minimal amount, and they do fines and forfeitures separate. So if we could have someone who could do fines and forfeitures, which I don't think that that's a tall order. I think if we could contract a local attorney who could do fines and forfeiture, it just takes diligence.
That's right.
Someone to actually be there. So I think if we could contract with a local attorney, they don't necessarily have to have any legal experts. Not legal, educational law.
That's right.
If we could do that and have a very general counsel, just like I think that would be good.
And
yeah, I like that idea, Mr. Johnson, about the fines and forfeitures, because one of the things that I remember is that if you use a local person, they have those networks, they have those relationships in court. And so that helps tremendously. So that might be like a third attorney that we contract with one for that, we contract with another for some of the other services. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
The contracts with real estate could be, I'm liking this idea of not just having one small focus. We could do an RFP and see what our bids are. They may be outrageous and people may say you're barking up the wrong tree, but we won't know that until we put it out there. So if we say we have a local attorney for fines and forfeitures, we put out an RFP for contracts and construction, because there are really good contractors out there. What other, we would want someone to have education expertise to do our law and policy review. Because listen, Ms. Sissons and Ms. Zukowski and I have spent many, many, many hours with battling back and forth over what this means. And unless you have a lawyer who can interpret that, we really can end up in more lawsuits than we would care to think about. So other areas, looking at Mr. Lawrence or at your list that you gathered from your studies, what other things could we put in?
Well, one thing that I just happened to think about that we discussed at the last board meeting was going with the School Boards Association to assist in policy review. So that piece is taken care of.
Yeah,
so we put them. Are we? Let me ask this the politically correct way. The school board's service is to put our policies in order, but I'm not sure they're a consulting firm. Is that my understanding, that they really don't? I know we've called them after Mr. Lawrence departed, we have called them on a couple of occasions, but tell me what your thought is about using them as consultation.
Well, I was thinking that we said we were going to, like when they revise based on new legislation, that
Mhm.
we would mimic our policies the
They
same
are.
way and
Yes.
revise.
That's
So,
correct.
so they are keeping up with the changes, and then we write our policies according to keep up with those same changes.
Yes, but let me explain the process. The school boards, as I understand it, Teresa, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Terry, correct me if I'm wrong. The School Boards Association gets the legislation. They get the school board, the North Carolina School Boards Association policies. They send those out to our board attorney, and then our board attorney adapts it to our needs. We really don't have verbatim policies. What the School Boards Association is trying to do is make sure we are covered in all areas and that our language mimics the law and state board policy. They're not, to my knowledge, they're not like someone that we get into a policy review committee and we call them up, oh, look, and we call them up and say, does this policy sound right? They send that out to board attorneys who then help us craft that to our district special needs, because our policies don't look like other counties because we have different priorities, I guess is the right word. I don't know what's the right word, but you see what I'm saying? That they're not a consulting firm so much as they are a compliance.
My understanding was, because Dr. Pierce works with us on policy review, was that within that service, he would have the ability to get that consultation with them to make sure that it is correct or that it is in alignment. So that was my understanding.
How about I reach out to, well, Allison's got her hands full with superintendent search, but Janine, let me reach out to her and ask her the extent. I don't want to put something in an RFP if we can get it for free, if that makes sense. So let me reach out to her and find out the extent to which they offer services. My worry is that they send out a new law or a new policy and there's no one to receive it, and it falls through the cracks and we end up in a lawsuit because we didn't follow the law. And that lawsuit would be much more expensive than the 2 hours in a policy review committee meeting. And I had asked before, and while my brain is a Z brain, so I'm thinking another one. Someone said that we could limit the number of hours that we have for certain services. So we could say up to a maximum of 25 hours a month, you do these things. Just while we're thinking on the extent of services needed. So anyway, I'll reach out to Janine.
Dr. Smith, change this up a little bit. I know on the sheet that was handed out for the studies and what everybody comes back with, I see X marks on in-house and contracted, but I don't see anybody that has double X's where they contract and have an in-house.
Oh yeah, if you look across the 11 by 17, there are many who have in-house, and then you go across where it says contracted services.
I guess my question is, can we get some descriptions of what the job description is for the in-house people?
Yes.
Because it'd be a great thing to see of what their duties are, and when they might be thinking about what we're talking about.
Right.
They already have something in place that will help us make that determination.
That's correct. This 49, I don't know if you can see this, but the 49 pages that I sent, and each of you had an in-house and contract. That really is, and I had asked that you kind of compare their services with ours. But those are the ones that I got from across the state. in-house Pitt County.
Right, and Pitts was, no, I'm thinking Union.
Charlotte Mecklenburg had both. Union County had
Union
in-house.
has both, and well, they had in-house and then
Yeah.
contracted for land acquisitions and contracts.
And we have, don't forget personnel. Brian Vetrano, when I was a principal, Joyce Wade brought Tharrington Smith, Jonathan Blumberg, who was here Monday night. He came in every spring when we had dismissals to go through our documentation to make sure that we were not stepping off a cliff when we dismissed someone. Terry, you remember those?
I do.
When we had to take all of our documentation and Jonathan would bless it and say, you have enough, or you need to put this person on an action plan part 2 and let them grow more. So personnel is another huge issue that some of these people, some of these districts, Harnett County, for example, was it Harnett? My printout didn't print out correctly. They had a separate attorney for personnel and exceptional children. So I need to hear your thoughts about personnel. We've mentioned exceptional children. We've mentioned contracts. We've mentioned fines and forfeitures.
What I would like to say about the EC piece is when Kara Grice was our compliance officer as an attorney, but she was hugely instrumental in 2 areas. 1, keeping us out of court over lawsuits, and 2, keeping us keeping our head count down.
Correct.
So that we were not we didn't have the numbers of kids who are having services now. They might end up on a 504, or she may assist in that IEP meeting, not IEP meeting, but in that determination meeting about strategies, almost like an MTSS coach. But she saved us a ton of money in terms of keeping that head count down.
Correct. She surely did. And since then, our EC numbers, and you heard in the report Monday night that over identifying really can cost us millions of dollars. And I don't want to deny any child services.
No.
But I also want to make sure that the services we provide are within a reasonable framework. And I think sometimes parents, when I was a principal, parents knew exactly which psychologist to go to get their child's range identified. And I think that's still going on. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm just saying we can look at that as a part of our RFPs. So let's kind of summarize what your thoughts are. We've got job descriptions for districts, both in-house and contracted. We have a sample RFP. If you'll turn to section 8 in your packet, and we'll just kind of look at a couple of samples. There are Rowan Salisbury, and they have, I think, a couple. So kind of look at that and see what you think. They have this person attending board work sessions, representing and negotiate in legal matters, time-sensitive stuff, and that was their school board attorney in-house. And then their second proposal was, I think this was the contracted one, where they had disciplinary stuff, prepare reports, correspondence, 12 months, and according to Rowan Salisbury, they paid their attorney a cabinet level salary. And then on 8.4, this was also part of their qualifications list. And I'm not real sure they included everything in their RFP that we have said we wanted in ours, but I'm open to hearing what your thoughts are about preparing an RFP or multiple RFPs. I'm really liking the idea of specialized attorneys and just see what they will, it's a bid. See what they will bid to provide that service. What are your thoughts?
Well, I like the way, and I'm trying to find the county, but I mean, you know, I think we should RFP a very general legal counsel to start with. That's my personal opinion, go very general. And, you know, I'm looking at some of the, you know, education and experience requirements that is in the packet, and we're talking, you know, Juris Doctorate, you know, North Carolina bar license, 10 years of actively engaged law practice, you know, significant experience in litigation and experience in governmental practice and agency hearings. I mean, if we went with a general counsel, I think our applicant pool could come from, you know, town attorneys. I mean, you know, government attorneys could apply. I mean, but if we go with a general counsel first, and we'd have to determine what the salary range will be. And to be honest, to start with, I would think it would be relatively low, you know, $60,000 to $80,000 a year. Not that that's super low, but most attorneys make more than that. But, you know, I think that if we look at other government entities, I think that would be a fair legal, you know, representative salary. But I think that's
considering that our superintendent makes $75,000. I don't think that's bad at all.
No, I get it. And I agree. But I think that would be, you know, something for a general counsel. And, you know, the more he or she picks up as we go along, the more they can do and the less we can rely on those contracted services. But I think if we did general counsel first and then the fines and forfeitures, because with the attorneys I've spoken to, that does not seem like a very difficult process. It just seems like you've got to be there to do it. And that's what they say. You just
basically you have to have representation.
That's right. So I think if that would be my suggestion, I'm open to other suggestions, a very general counsel, and then let's go ahead and start the RFP for you know, fines and forfeitures in Johnston County.
What about real estate contracts?
I think we just contract, and I think we would have to pretty much continue our reliance on Tharrington and Smith until we find the people we want. And I think our general counsel could be very helpful in finding the people we want to do, and maybe even have some experience. You know, we may have a contract attorney come and apply for this job. They may come and have a level of expertise that could benefit us in a way we're not prepared for. You know what I mean? Like they could come in with work experience that say, okay, well, you can do this too. So we don't know, but I think the general counsel would probably be the safest thing to throw out there. And you know,
you're saying that's an in-house RFP, right? Not a contract.
No, not a I apologize. That is an in-house position.
Okay, got it. In-house general counsel, external fines and forfeitures, perhaps ECP and personnel through someone like Tharrington Smith who have the expertise.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let me make sure I've got this down. And then real estate contracts, we mentioned that a couple of times. I'm not sure I got what that should be.
Contract.
I think that's going to be through contract. You know, we can this. Who is assisting with that now? Is that Tharrington and Smith?
That's my question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think we've made a move that since we've got new. I don't think we've made a move yet. Any real estate move, so really no one.
And aren't we in the process, or did we close out the purchase of the land for the school? That would be a mess if that just got dropped.
No, I'm pretty sure that's been closed out.
Is it? You know, we used to get those reports. I'm not sure I understand that clearly.
And if we get clarification on the School Boards Association for policy review, I'm kind of like Terry. I thought when Dr. Pierce talked about that was going to make our life really easy with policy, that it's up with the latest and we can adopt, and we were just going to align with it, and it was going to reduce the amount of time we had to spend on that and the amount of legal time we'd have to spend on that.
Yeah. And I will clarify that was really not my understanding. My understanding was that they were bringing our policies into alignment But I'm just trying to think about 119 school districts, calling them up to make sure that their policies are correct. And I know right now they send that information to the legal counsel. And so that might come under Mr. Johnson's general counsel. That may be part of what we add to that general counsel, is that you receive those policy recommendations from the state board and from the legislature and make sure that our policies are in compliance. That's a really big general counsel in-house. I think we also need to think about general counsel benefits and having a secretary in an office. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, the attorney I spoke with said the first year they're learning, they don't need a secretary. They don't need a quasi paralegal. They need to actually do everything themselves. And then after they learn how to do everything themselves, secretarial, paralegal, then after that first year, they get a paralegal or an administrative assistant. But they stress the importance of it. They do every single thing, from answer the phone to file the paperwork, that they do every single thing and learn everything that their paralegal and administrative assistant would be doing. So they recommended the first year, they don't get a legal assistant. They don't get an administrative assistant. They do everything themselves the first year. And then after that, we look at, okay, what duties could you get that would be more secretarial or administrative that you feel like you could have someone else do?
I agree, Ronald. I've talked with some other attorneys who've said the same thing, and I've even had a couple say that we probably would never need to hire someone because that it's just as easy to go ahead and process it as it is to show somebody how to do it.
That's right.
Okay, and I hear that. I'm just thinking about let me think how I can say this. I'm thinking about what people delegate. I agree. I rarely delegated to my secretary. She had enough to do. And I'm trying to think what I read on the I know that Jimmy's paralegal prepared his monthly statements based on what he shared with her. And I really hope that you all will ask Ms. Dublin for a copy of that. I'm sure she'll just scan it right to you. It's a lot of reading. It's multiple pages, but it's instructive. So one other question, and then we'll take a break before we meet with our district election committee. How much value do you see in me running these ideas by Ken Sue just to get his thoughts? Paralegals are $195 an hour in most systems. And if we hired a secretary, I certainly would not expect to pay $195 an hour. So, but now his paralegal is called a paralegal. So I'm going to call Janine Murphy, and then with your permission, I'll call Ken Sue just to run our, what I call our framework. And I think we've all agreed that we want an in-house proposal and a contracted services proposal for fines and forfeitures, perhaps real estate. We'll run that by him, and exceptional children personnel would all be, depending on what our in-house counsel's expertise was. If we got someone like our compliance officer before, that might be handled in-house, but if not, we're going to have to contract it with someone outside the district because those are big money cases.
Well, I think you'll find a lot of attorneys locally that will be experts in real estate fines and forfeitures and many other tasks.
And we can combine those. Is that your?
Yeah, I'm saying one attorney could do them all.
Good. Okay, good. All right. Well,
So, Dr. Smith, I have a question. In several of these, training was in the job description.
Yes.
What type of training is that?
I'm glad you asked that, Teresa, because Terry and I have talked about this. When our former superintendent took office, I kept asking, are principals getting this information, this training? And I was told no. When I was a principal, Jimmy Lawrence came, if not every meeting, at least every other meeting. He would bring us up to date on the new law and policy. For example, when we had the new law about enrolling students, that was a mammoth legislation that said you have to take students, you don't have to take students. I didn't know that legislation, but when he came to the principals meetings, I left there with clarity about when I could deny a student access to enroll in my school. Those are the kinds of things that we have to have training. Principals don't know what the policies are. One, they don't have time to read them, but the other thing that we used to get and don't anymore was a legal update from the government on, what is it called, Terry, in Chapel Hill?
Institute of Government.
Institute of Government. We used to get a subscription to that, and every month they would bring us up to date. And it was a Reader's Digest version of the new laws and policies. We don't get that anymore. So the training has to be part of our general counsel's job. It's not a big job if you look at the number of hours, but it is a critical job in terms of the benefit to keeping our rears out of slings. And principals just need good information. They need to know the process for dismissing employees. You know, some people don't know that you have to do an action plan and that you have to have some documentation. It's like this teacher's not measuring up. I'm going to recommend non-dismissal. You can't do that unless you have documentation. And some principals have never been through that training. So
it's more of an HR type training.
It could be, or it could be a public records piece. It could be anything, but and this would be the benefit of having somebody in-house that's not charging us billable hours. That principal can pick up the phone and call. And that's not a billable hour because we're paying them a salary.
That's right. That's exactly right. And we were never allowed to do that. We had to go through multiple layers. And then at the end of the year, Jonathan Bloomberg came and sat with us and said, let me see your documentation, and you either can or you cannot dismiss this person. So that, you're right, Terry, that would save us multiple hundreds of dollars, thousands. Actually, let's just be honest. It would save us thousands of dollars a year if we had an in-house person ready to do that.
So this may be the scenario like Ronald was talking about. If it's something they're not as familiar with, they work with Arrington and Smith, get the understanding, then they can come out and train, they can answer the questions.
That's right.
And then next time they know the answer. That's
right. But they have to be, I can't stress enough the number of policy review committee meetings when we would sit down and Mr. Lawrence would say, we've got this new law that says, and we created how many, Terry, 3 or 4 new policies this year based on the new laws. And it takes time. So we need that. We need somebody, and I love the in-house counsel thought, because they would be on call for everybody, but they would say, we've got new laws, we've got new state board policies. For example, I just heard today that the state board has sent out a directive to train people to teach online with the same quality as face-to-face. Laugh out loud. However, we need an attorney who can come in and say, here are the pitfalls, here are the structures, here are the ways that we can make that happen. So that's just my thought. Any final thoughts before we take a slight break, and I will get all this back to you. I didn't take extensive minutes, but I think I captured what you said. I'll send that out, and if there are errors, please write them back, and I will act on those 2 calls in the meantime. Agreed?
Okay.
Now, I'm not on the next committee. Is Terry Tracy on the next one?
She is.
I don't think
So
I
she
am
missed
either.
it. All right.
Mike, what did you say?
I don't think I'm on that call either.
Well, we'd love to have you stay anyway. All of you stay if you would.
That's right.
Thank you, Teresa. We appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good luck. Mhm.
Mike, are you going to stay?
I'm at the bank working,
Okay.
So I probably need to get off.
Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it very much. And Michelle said we could stay on, Ron, and Ms. Sessoms.
Okay,
said we-
great.
What is this committee?
The next one is the elections committee,
Election.
district, electing board members.
Oh, yeah. Can I ask you one thing? What's your direction from here?
On the legal counsel.
Yeah, what we just talked.
I'm going to send to you all the minutes of what we just
Okay.
did. I'm going to talk to Janine Murphy about whether they are available for policy review.
Okay,
I'm going to talk to Ken Sue about what we've said about in-house versus fines and forfeitures, general contractor, real estate contract, contract services. So that's my next steps. And then we'll have another meeting. I don't see this being an urgent thing since we have Ken Sue representing us pretty much. I know we get 2 attorneys. It's costing us a boatload of money each meeting, but I don't feel bad about calling him for advice. As long as we can get this done in a reasonable amount. I would really like to have a proposal done by the by the middle of May, about the 15th of May, so we could get the proposals out on the timeline so that the new superintendent would come in knowing what we're having and establish a relationship with.
all right, y'all have fun.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
have
Thank
fun.
you.
Thanks for being here. All right, let's take a short break and we'll be back in 8 minutes.
Okay.
have all of our members present. Ms. Michelle Weckesser, thank you for making note of that. And I saw where Dr. Williams joined us. Did he join us, or is Ronald?
I'm just on his computer.
I got you. Well, good. Okay.
Hey, Ben.
I just see your background. I see where you are. Very good. Let me pull up. I had it up and then I hit close. Does everybody have the, hold on a second. Let me pull it up. It's not pulling. So I am calling the meeting to order, and probably have already done that. That's not what I wanted. Petition to the legislative delegation.
Tracy, I finally was able to read your email.
Good.
Okay. Thank you for sending that.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Michelle, can you pull that document and put it on the screen? I've got it on my screen, but I don't have share privileges.
Yes, ma'am. Let me attempt that. If you can give me just a second.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to go through this really quickly and make sure it's saying what we want to say, but Tracy Zukowski has some additional information that she sent us via email about the process, which may be much simpler than we at first thought. And I hope that we can agree to get something moving quicker than slower. Okay, let's see if this goes down. I see it, Michelle. We're getting there.
Jason, how are you able to assist me, and how can I scroll down on this document to get to the link that I need to? Because I have everyone's pictures on the right side, so it's like I can't. Oh, hang on. I might have figured it out. Yep, I got it now. Thank you.
Yay, there we go. Technology at its best.
That's right. Okay, is this what we're looking for?
Yes, and can you enlarge it with the little X up there and the little plus to make it larger, since I am old and my eyes are not as good as they have been, or is that what that is?
Let's see. It says that's highlights it.
Oh, never mind. I thought that was to increase.
Actually, let me look right here. How's that?
Okay. So I'm just going to go through these one by one, and if anybody objects to the wording or needs to edit it, just say so and we will make that happen. And I went online and saw the format. I used to think there were all kinds of colons and all kinds of stuff, but they said this is the way it's supposed to be. So if you think of another format you would like to see it in, we can do that. Whereas the Johnston County Board of Education has been discussing election by districts for the board for a number of years. I need to add an A. Michelle, I can't edit that. Can you add an A right there, for a number of years?
Let's see.
Oh, it looks like it.
Maybe. No, it looks like it just allows me to highlight. So probably once I get out of this mode, maybe because it is larger right now.
Okay, so if you could make a note to do that when we get it done. Hearing none, we'll move to point 2. Whereas until 2016, the need was mitigated due to having a representative from each area of the district. And we did. Butler was from South, Mike was from Princeton, I was from McGee's, Teresa was from Cleveland, Ron was from Clayton, and Keith Branch, who was there. Todd was from Kinley, and we had someone from Smithfield. I guess Mike represented Smithfield and Princeton. But now that's not true. So the third point was, whereas the composition of the current and future Board of Education has left 2 areas of the district without a representative from McGee's and South Johnston areas of the county. Are there other areas that are not represented? Okay, whereas all areas of the district and are in need of that highlighted on mine. So if we could, Michelle, if we could edit that to say, whereas all areas of the county, all areas of the district need, and take that are in need of, just say district need a representative who lives in the district.
Okay.
And district people, help me with the district who lived in the area of the county. District is repetitive and it makes it sound like we just all need to be from Johnston County, and that's not what I want it to say. So help me with that wording. All areas of the district are in need of a representative who lives.
Oh, how about whereas all areas of the school system
There you go. Yes.
are in need of a
There's-
representative who lives in the district, because the district is a subset of the school system.
Good. That's
Yes.
perfect. That's perfect. You got that, Michelle?
I do not. If you can repeat that one more time, Terry.
Okay, whereas all areas of the school system are in need of a representative who lives in the district. Or you could say, whereas all districts of the school system are in need of a representative who lives within the district.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Good. And then whereas the Johnston County Board of Commissioners have 7 established districts representing all areas, again, of all areas of the county. Change
That's-
district to county.
Yeah.
And I got that straight from Larry Strickland. He said the quickest way to get this done was to follow the pattern of the commissioners.
County
And
commissioners.
then in times when we expand our district and we get another high school, we may want to expand the board to 8 or 9 members. Well, 9 members, because you'd have to have an odd number. But for this, to get it on the board that we have district elections, we would need to say we follow the county commissioners' boundaries. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, Ronald?
I mean, personally, I think it should be based on population. I think that you should do it by, let me just go very briefly. The way Smithfield is carved up, you could
Mhm.
have, in theory, 3 different representatives for the town of Smithfield, which doesn't necessarily mean you would get 3 representatives for Smithfield Selma High School. If you
Correct.
look historically at the county commission, you just look at how Smithfield is carved up, almost gerrymandered to the point where if you live in East Smithfield, you're in another district. West Smithfield's another district. North Smithfield's another district. South Smithfield's another district. So you carve up Smithfield to the point where you may not have a Smithfield representative, much like it was on the county commissioner board prior to this past 2020 election, where Patrick Harris got on. You have a hard time getting a representative on from the town of Smithfield, and Selma for that matter. But that's something that I would like to see personally. I would like to see it be equal in populace, so that way you're not looking at a district who is a district that doesn't have a lot of people carrying the same weight as a district who has more people. I just think that it should be equal based on population. So it may increase the length and time we have to wait, but I would like to see these districts drawn very fairly to represent, one person, one vote, basically.
And the objective was to get each high school a representative.
Right.
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 And so,
Go ahead, Terry.
I was just going to agree with Ronald because I live here in Smithfield, and I'm telling you, the way it is split up with the county commissioners, it's a mess. And who is going to represent Smithfield Selma High School?
Correct. That's
So,
correct. And the when I talked to Mr. Strickland about it, he said they had a study done years and years and years ago when I think Kay Carroll was on the board. The problem is it costs a lot of money to bring in the people from Chapel Hill to divide up the districts. So one thing that we could change this to say is, okay, would we still have 7 members if we went 7 high schools?
Well, you could combine Princeton and the North Johnston area because those are scarcely populated as compared to, say, the Clayton area.
Okay. So instead of saying, whereas the Johnston County Board of Education could model their districts, why don't we just strike that and say, whereas the Johnston County Board of Education would, no, I'm just going to say this out loud and then we can gerrymander the words, will follow the high school attendance areas except for Princeton and North Johnston, which would be combined. That would assure representation for each high school attendance area. I just put this in here because I had no idea where to start, but
Right.
I like the idea of changing that wording. Whereas the Johnston County Board of Education, strike it, would create districts for each high school attendance area, I guess following the attendance areas, except for North and Princeton. Say it how you want it said. I like changing that very much.
Well, I agree. It makes absolutely perfect sense to do it that way if we are truly want to represent our school system as a whole. So
Correct.
I agree with that.
So make the wording. Whereas the Johnston County Board of Education will follow school attendance boundaries.
Based on high school.
High school attendance high
Boundary.
school attendance
Yeah, high school.
high school attendance areas.
Except for North and Princeton, which will be combined.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Does that give us 7 representatives?
That would be, yes, because we have 8 high school attendance areas. So if you combine those 2, that would be 7.
Okay, and then when we build another high school, you go to 9-member board, maybe even with an at large, if you still wanted to combine Princeton and North.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'd add 2 more board members. One would be at large and one would represent that new high school. Makes
Good.
sense.
Very
Ron,
good.
are you good with that?
I'm just kind of trying to think my way through this. This is the first time I saw this document. Did it just go out today?
No, I sent this out weeks ago. In fact, I've sent it out 3 times.
I apologize. I have not seen this one, but with this, I'm looking at, I'm thinking I would like to see some at-large representatives. I mean, someone who does represent the county in its entirety, and we couldn't do it under that model. I mean, potentially, could you add 2 board members for at-large seats currently, or could you look at a north, south, east, west, and 3 at-large, 3 at-large seats?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would take a lot longer to get this through our delegation because that would take a lot of math. That would take bringing in a consulting firm to give us the numbers and to match. We would have to pay for that service.
Now, board members would still be elected like the county commissioners are. It would still be an at-large election, even though
Right.
they're representing. That's good because
Right.
one of the concerns that I heard from the African American community was that they were afraid that if the elections were not at large, that their votes might be marginalized.
That's right.
So by keeping the vote at large, like the commissioners do, that would eliminate the problem.
And we need to say that, do we not? Oh, yes, all districts would be held countywide. Yes,
Or
it's in there. And once we get it through the legislation, then you can do any number of restructuring. What we're trying to do is get this through our representatives, and Tracy's going to share that in just a minute, how we can do that. So we've struck that last one, model the districts after the county commissioners, and then could begin the district elections in 2022 Board of Education elections. any objection to it starting in 2022 if we can get it through the legislature.
I just don't want to rush anything because if in a rush you're going to do something, I don't want to leave anything out. And I'm really interested in having a public hearing about this.
Oh yeah, we have to do that.
Have to.
Okay.
That's required.
I wouldn't want to rush it, but when we get it done, that's the main thing, to get it done.
Right.
I know the concern is, you may have, 7 elected officials from one neighborhood. In theory, you could do that. You could have 7 elected officials from one neighborhood, and that would be concerning to some. But I think that if we do get this going, and if it's 2024, 2026, then that would negate that. You'd be able to revert back to what you want to do. But I don't know. I don't want to do anything in haste. I don't want to do anything too quick. I want to be sure it's done right. And if that means, getting a consulting firm to be sure that each vote is equally counted, I'm all for that. But I'm just one person, I don't like to do anything too fast here.
Well, I think that gives us 2 years and a half, 2.5 years. And if we don't do it sooner, then I just think it gets lost again. And this happened before. It kind of got hot, and then it got put on the back burner, and it never happened. And 2.5 years is certainly enough time to tweak or redraw or rethink. And when we have more money in the budget, it costs money to bring in the consultant. They brought in UNC Chapel Hill. I don't know that we would do that, but that's who Larry recommended as the people who do this across the state. And I think in 2022, who's up in 2022? Tracy and Terry?
Yeah. And let me just say this, because I really will not have a dog in the race at that point, because I don't plan to run again. But the south end of the county, the area that I'm a liaison for, even though I don't live down there, they are. This was a huge concern that came up while Tracy and Todd and I were campaigning. And they still have this concern. They want a representative. They want someone from their community who lives there to be their representative. And that was one of the things that when we did the Benson Forum that they were very vocal about. They wanted to know if we would support moving forward with this. And I just believe that 2 years is enough time to get this right. I believe that 2 years, but we also have to show that we're willing to make that commitment so that within 2 years, they will be assured of having a representative.
And the McGee's area is the same way, Terry. We no longer will have one in December. And that's concerning to them because we're exploding in population. And, we have been rural for so long, and West Johnston opened, and 3 years later we opened Cleveland, and they were both at capacity. So we need to have people all over the county. Tracy, what are your thoughts?
I feel the same. I think every part of our county needs to be represented on our board, and somebody from their own community needs to be representing them. I'm just like Terry. I'm not planning on running for re-election in 2 years, so I don't have a dog in this fight. But I think as a soon-to-be non-board member, I think as a future constituent that this is going to be very important for me to make sure that all areas of our school system are represented. And if it takes 2 years to get it right, then it takes 2 years to get it right. But I think that we need to start the initial steps in moving in that direction.
And the first step is to get our legislation on the board so that we have the authority to do it. And
absolutely,
our legislative delegation consists of more than Larry and Donna. We've got to get it through Bell. We've got to get it through, he'll be expiring. He'll be retiring in November, but
right.
We had his name I had his name, and then I said something. No way. Yes, we have to go and get it through all of our delegation.
Right. And that's going to take time. And so with everything that's going on in our world and at General Assembly and all the unknowns, we've got to get this in that somehow so that they know it's on their radar and we can get it moving forward.
All right. So let me just ask a question here. So let's just say, all right, so with the district question, we would not reflect the county commissioner district. We would just go
That's
by the
correct.
feeder patterns of the schools.
Correct.
So like North Johnston High, Princeton Middle, Princeton High, that will be one district.
Right.
And then
Like-
Clayton would have its own district. Cleveland would have its own districts. Corinth, Triple S, and West Johnson, they would all have their own
Right.
districts respectively.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. What about, I mean, and just to ask, not to get in the weeds here, but early college and CTLA.
They're all they're countywide anyway. Students come to those schools
All over.
county. Yeah.
Okay.
So whereas the Board of Education could gradually accommodate and revise districts to add more seats to match local area high school if preferred by future boards. So that takes into account that we may build more schools and would need more high school area representation. Thoughts and comments?
Do we need to have a future plan in here? Like for when the system does build another high school, does that need to be in this draft as well to make sure that we've covered all of our bases?
I think just putting it in there that future boards would make that decision because
Okay.
we really can't predict where that new high school will go. We kind of think we do, but
Yeah.
this board really should not obligate a
Good deal.
future board except to get it on the book so that we can move forward. That's
Right.
our objective, is to get the legislative delegation on board. Now, we're going to have the public hearing, as we said. Who knows when that will be able to happen? We might be able to have it. We had a forum today at Campbell on WebEx with 600 people. So properly advertised and properly handled, we could conduct a public forum electronically. It wouldn't be ideal, but I think we could do it. It would take a different format than Zoom because it won't accommodate that many people, or will it, Michelle?
That I'm not certain.
It
of.
will.
Okay.
Zoom will accommodate that many people.
Okay.
It will. But I'm not sure, Michelle, we might have to check into this if we have to have, like, I don't know if we have a license. So,
Well, I know we did go ahead and pay for a 1-year subscription just because we could see we were going to be utilizing this for the board. So it sounds like you probably are more aware of what all that includes than I am right now.
yeah. So we would set it up as a webinar instead of a Zoom meeting, and the webinar would give specific people the ability to like monitor the chat. So if people have questions, that person will be responsible for reading,
right.
and then all of that chat and Q&A actually has the Q&A section will actually be downloaded. So we will have a digital copy of that so we can go through and answer those questions. So this would be a fine format to do it. It just has to be set up as a webinar, not a meeting.
Okay.
And the chat really is the way to do, it is the way to do inclusive meetings so that they're not just hearing us read our proposal. It is their opportunity to feedback and say, I don't like this. What are you thinking? What does this mean for my district?
Yep.
It's a really good format. So yes, that'd be great. And I can see us doing that. I would like to get this to our delegation as quickly as possible. And I know Tracy's going to share how that can happen. So let's go ahead and finish this whereases and get onto her information. So whereas all district seats would be held countywide, as are the county commissioners, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education is asking members of the Johnston County Legislative Delegation to introduce and pass a local bill to make Board of Education elections countywide with representatives from each district mirroring the area high school attendance areas with Princeton and North Johnston combined. Is that kind of how we want that last sentence to read? Each high school attendance area with Princeton and North Johnston combined. Is that what we said?
I think it would be, well, I think it would probably be better to actually define, like, do like a list format, like
Okay.
Clayton High and then your Clayton, what I think Clayton Middle, West Clayton, East Clayton, Cooper, Powhatan would be represented by one. And then you go to Cleveland High, and that would be like Cleveland Middle, Cleveland E, Polina and Swift Creek, and kind of outline the actual district and what it would encompass. And then you could, for like your North Johnston and Princeton, say, what is that, Glendale Kinley, Micro, Pine Level, Princeton Elementary, and North Johnston Middle, coupled with the high schools. So I think that would probably be it. Just go out and specifically outline what we want to do and where we want to put it, instead of just being like each high school and these two put together. Just go ahead and outline the districts by their feeder patterns and every school it encompasses. I think that would probably be the best way.
Except that in East Clayton's case, East Clayton splits into 3 middle schools: Clayton Middle, Archer Lodge, and what's the other one? Riverwood Middle. Yes, East
Riverwood.
Clayton splits into 3 feeder patterns. They're not, and we've worked really hard to get our feeder patterns contiguous, but it doesn't happen.
But a growth in that area makes it.
That's right. That's right.
So then I guess you would say, like, District 1 could be South Johnston High School, District, or the whatever that feeder pattern. District 2 would be West Johnston. District 3, North Johnston and Princeton, or however you want to do it. Just outright specifically list each district.
I'm all for that.
And Dr. Smith, just so you know, since we've been in this meeting and I wasn't able to edit this document, it's a Word document, so we weren't going to be able to see the live changes. I went ahead and converted this document to a Google Doc and shared it with all of you all with edit
Perfect.
rights as well, just because it sounds like everyone has maybe a lot of thoughts. So we can each go in there, kind of make the revisions, and then talk through it that way.
Oh, Michelle, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. So
Yes.
are we going out of this now? Well, first of all, let's look at the bottom and see if I've left off any groups. Yes, I did leave off, and I edited this, but this is the one I had sent out a couple or 3 times. Terry suggested that we get the endorsement from the 2 major political parties and any other political parties that have a formal organization. So if we could add that, ministerial association, major political party officers. What was it you said, Terry?
Are you talking about the community officers, advisory council, and PTA?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
political
Yeah.
party. You
Uh-huh.
going
Oh,
to
yes,
give
the political party chairs. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Mhm.
Or maybe officers of, since they have more than just one person. The JCAE, and who else can you all think of that we do not have here? County commissioners, mayors, chambers of commerce, advisory council, PTA, ministerial association, political parties, JCAE. Any other organizations that you can think of? Hearing none, we will now, Michelle, how do we get to your edits?
So, well, and I haven't completed them all yet. Let me see if I'm able to bring it. Do you want me to see if I can bring it up on here and share it?
Yes, and
Yeah.
while you're doing that, let's hear from Ms. Zukowski about the process that she has talked to Representative White about.
Absolutely. So it's all through email, going back and forth, obviously, because of the COVID time that we're in, everybody's doing multitasking. Our deadline to make the short session is to have Representative White author our bill. Unfortunately, we have to have that according to the regulation 2020-1. Has to be in by Tuesday, May the 5th, which is next week. So it looks. So the good thing about that is it looks like we're going to get the time that we were all talking about that we needed. That's fine. I'll reach back out to Representative White and find out when the next deadline is for the next session. So it'll give us some time to go through, and we can go ahead and complete this document, maybe go ahead and send it to her so that she can see it, and then go ahead and talk to our community partners to see where they stand and if they'll support us. that is a great feature to have. It's not required that we have any community support, but it always helps our cause. And as far as how we're going to break it up, that third paragraph in the email that I sent you, where it showed and talked about Vance County Board of Education and how they break theirs up according to the county commissioners, just avoid that email, avoid that part of the email, because we've decided to not do that. And then the very last link that I sent to you is actually the entire process of how a bill becomes a law in North Carolina. I'm happy to share my screen, but it does start off with us bringing it to Representative White. She authoring the bill, and then she puts it through a committee. It gets 3 readings, and then it either gets passed or revised, and it goes through the Senate. So I will make it my task this week to find out when the next deadline is for us, so we'll have that time.
Okay, Tracy, I'm wondering, just let's play this out. So I go off the board in December. The next session would be a long session starting in January of 2021. There are 3 of you on this committee, and if we get the all of the hearings done and all of the weeds in the document done, and it's ready to go January, then 3 of you on this committee form a committee. I mean, you don't have to have me. A committee of 3 is what we've operated under as long as I've been on the board. So with your push, then we could have it ready when day 1 of session, the long session, starts in 2021, therefore having it ready for the election in 2022.
Right. And it could be too, Dr. Smith, and I don't know if they're working just as hard as we're working, because I feel like we have a meeting every other day. They may have a different session that's coming up. It's just going to be a matter of me reaching out via email and finding out. And I'll do that now.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. So while we're waiting on Michelle, any other thoughts about district elections and moving forward with this process?
I think we're moving in the right direction.
Well, and I can tell you that the folks in the South End, they'll be thrilled.
Yes, my community too. And, you know, people in Smithfield, now that we are doing high school attendance areas, really ought to be
Oh yeah.
much more, Smithfield Selma, because it's Selma High School, should really feel like they're going to have a voice where now they do not. So thank you for having that correction. That's really a much better plan.
Absolutely.
And I think Mr. Strickland would appreciate that and make it, I think that would be he would support that. Okay, so let's see. Back on number, we edited, whereas all areas of the county or the school system, didn't we say, Terry?
Yes.
Whereas all areas of the school system need a representative who lives in the school district, in the individual high school district or something like that. However,
Yeah. In the individual high school attendance area.
there you go. And just take out that whole district thing. Whereas all areas of the school system need a representative who lives in the respective high school attendance
area. Mm-hmm.
And then areas, do you want to say right here with Princeton and North combined, so that we make sure that's
good? Mm-hmm.
With Princeton High and North Johnston High combined?
Mhm. Okay, and then 7 districts representing all areas of the county. That really would not be necessary because we've now said the school system would have a representative. Do we need that next sentence at all?
Maybe consider wording it each. I don't know. I'm going to try to come up with some wording here, but like maybe say each high school will be designated one representative based on its feeder pattern.
That's good.
I like
Good.
that.
Yeah.
Job.
With the exception of North Johnston and Princeton High School. And just type in there that they would basically share, but you wouldn't say share. You could say North Johnston and Princeton High School will share a representative based on both of their feeder patterns.
Yes. So take out the whole thing about the county commissioners, whereas each high school will be represented. Just take out the whole county commissioner thing, because that really is irrelevant. Do you agree?
Yeah. At this point, yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so say it again, Ronald.
Can't say it again. I just
Okay.
Just
Well, we'll have a transcript, so we can go back and look at it.
no. You're
Welcome to our policy meetings.
right.
Each high school will be represented. Where are you talking?
Whereas, yes. Go
Okay.
ahead.
You would get rid of whereas the Johnston County Board of Commissioners
Correct.
have 7 established. You would get rid of that.
Mhm.
Representing all areas, just all of that.
No,
All of
there
that.
you go.
Just,
You got it
just
right
do
there.
it. Just do a
All right.
whereas.
Yeah, there you go.
Each high school attendance area will be represented based on its feeder pattern, with the exception of North Johnston and Princeton, which will be combined. We've said that before, but it needs to be stated there too, because it talks about each attendance area. Good. Okay, and then take that whole next sentence out, because we're not modeling it after the county commissioners at all. Okay, 2022. We said we would revise districts, held countywide. Now, Mr. To introduce and pass a bill countywide commissioners that the legislation be approved for the elections beginning in 2022. And then we added some groups who did that: political parties, officials, and JCAE. Anybody else that we should go to? We know we have to have a public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And I added a little footnote when I sent out the thing today saying, I don't mind sending a personal letter to every one of those people that you see right there and getting their individual endorsement and putting them in a binder, for lack of a better word, and scan that to our delegation.
I think that's great. I think that's a great idea, Peggy.
Since we can't have meetings, we would, I don't mind attending the county commissioners meeting, but I'm not going to be there to have them sign it. So I will gladly send personal letters, and then just keep a binder with a little tab that says Johnston County Commissioners, Johnston County Mayors, Johnston County Chambers of Commerce, and behind those tabs, those individual letters. So
Thank you. Yeah, that's great.
all right, I'm gonna make myself a note to a to-do list. And I will send it to you before I send it out for your approval. I'll have to get each school to send me their advisory council and PTA officers. I'll have to get a ministerial association. I'll need the political party stuff, but I'll work on that. And
Michelle should have that information. I know the superintendent's office always kept that because they meet with those different groups.
okay. And I'm going to sign all of our names on the letter. I'm going to say the committee and then list your names under it, so that they know that it was not just me, that this committee has made this recommendation to go to the legislature and get this done. I'll do a cover letter and send that to you also before I send it out. But I'm thinking I'm going to send this out pretty quickly.
Okay.
Okay, I'm making a note. Anything else that I should do? We can't arrange a public hearing just now, but if we get a lot of endorsements and we get a lot of discussion going on in communities, I would think that we could hold it mid-June. kind of after graduation stuff, mid-June.
Right.
And I won't say we're going to do that. I will say our plans are to hold either a live or virtual public hearing mid-June. Is that good to put in the letter?
That's fine.
Good. Okay. Any last thoughts before we adjourn?
No, ma'am.
No?
That's all.
Oh, Tracy,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
were going to send us, I'm going to put on there that you're going to send us, well, Michelle's probably taking minutes, the updated next due date for
Yes, ma'am.
legislation.
And I've just asked that. I've already sent that email out, so I just got to wait for a response.
Excellent. Anybody else want to do anything, say anything, add anything? Great job, team. This is wonderful. 40 minutes. This is a record breaking.
Well, we had a good leader. Thank you.
Well, thank
Amen.
you.
And good teammates. Good teammates.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And thank you, Ronald, for bringing up the districts. That
Yes.
really changed the whole focus and is really what we were after. So
Oh, thanks.
Mhm.
absolutely the best plan. All right. Well, we will schedule another meeting when we get all the stuff together. And in the meantime, we'll see you all in our Tuesday meeting and our next policy review, Tracy and Terry.
Okay. See you on Zoom.
Welcome to join us
Bye.
for the policy review, even though you're not a member of the committee. We
Thank
welcome
Yeah,
you.
come on over.
Come on in.
We
'cause
need your insights.
Yep. Take care, all.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Thank you.